All right, welcome to another episode of Around the Grounds with the Property Baron. It's the 10th of April, 2026. I'm Jason Barron. Each week I'm joined by Nick Meredith, our man on the ground in Brisbane, and Hugo Fonseca, who leads our property investment division of the business. How are you this morning?
Very good. Another busy week. These short weeks don't help, but no, all good.
Easter last weekend. Busy weekend on the Sunshine Coast though, with a bunch of holiday makers out and about doing inspections. Let's have a chat about what's been happening. I guess the biggest topic of conversation at the moment out there is the uncertainty in the market. I know we've touched on it last couple of weeks, but I don't think we can ignore it. There is a little bit of a shift in the market. Interesting to see how it's playing out. I'm finding personally, and we'll get your thoughts in a minute, both of you, but I'm finding that there is a little bit less competition on properties that we're looking to buy. Where I am, we're finding that some agents are starting to get a little bit nervous with not as many listings coming on as they might expect to have. A little bit of a mixed bag because, one agent will say that and then the next agent will talk about all the listings they've already got coming on over the next couple of weeks. But for the most part, confidence has dropped a little bit. Market activity is a little bit lower. We had a really big weekend last weekend around the Sunshine Coast with open homes in terms of the volume of people getting through there, but not many people pulling the trigger. As a business, we seem to be in a good position with the market trend at the moment. Our clients seem to be ready to buy. I think it's really important that we continue to have those conversations with our clients about, hey, property's not a short-term thing, it's a long-term thing. We know you need to buy for whatever the reason that you need to buy is, and it's a good time to buy at the moment with a little bit less competition. So we're sitting in a really good position there. How are you guys?
Yeah, look, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think it's probably the best time to buy in the last 6 months. Some of the competition, as you said, the heat's gone out of it. There's opportunities to perhaps negotiate more than we've had the opportunity recently. Noticed not a lot, but we're starting to get emails now about properties that have been on for a little while and price reductions, getting more agents calling us with off markets or, hey, have you got someone for this? Which has been a nice turnaround. I think that really helps us. And yeah, the opportunities that off markets are important, but the fact that we're getting more of them now gives a great advantage to our buyers.
It gets talked about a lot with the off markets, doesn't it? We get
Yeah,
clients
it does.
asking us about off markets and whatnot, and there's always this perception that if it's not off market, it must not be a bargain or a good deal. But it just depends on what the market is like. So I'm seeing the same as Nick. I've seen an increase in off market properties being sent to us, agents getting in touch, and I think that's another great sign of what a great time it is to invest in property. You've got sellers are sitting on the fence because of the uncertainty. As you said, Jason, there's less buyers, and the ones that are coming through, from what I hear from agents, they're more indecisive. So the less that are coming through the open homes, they're just having a look. They'll look through it, but they're not committed. They're not wanting to make a decision on the spot, or much less in a short time frame because of that uncertainty. That's where the off markets come in, or where we can come in and help the agents as well, because we have those serious buyers, those committed buyers that are ready to go and do want to pull the trigger on something right now. But I think what you were saying before, Jason, in terms of being a good opportunity, what was the main driver for the price increases over the last few years? It was supply at the end of the day, right? And what are we all saying now that we're seeing less of? Even less supply. There's even less listings. I think if nothing else, if you just look at that factor, then that just goes to show how good of an opportunity it is.
Yeah, for sure. It's early days. We don't really know where it's going to end up. But things could turn back to a competitive market any day now if things get back underway. When you've got a good opportunity to buy, which could be now, it's good to take it with. We won't know when the best time to buy from this little blip is going to be until we're well and truly past this slight downturn, and we look back on it, 6 months later, 12 months later, and say, hey, if we had bought then, it would have been the best time. Have to have the confidence to pull the trigger now.
Part of our job initially with clients is education as well, and just informing them of, what's happening in the market. And look, there might be an opportunity that comes up that we need to jump on because we've seen the market, we know what's happening, and this is a really good opportunity. Let's take advantage of it. And a lot of that early on in the process with clients is educating them on what's actually happening out there.
Yeah, it's a really good example of what you were just talking about. He's been thinking of buying for a long time, and he started talking to me. I think it's going back maybe 7 or 8 months now. maybe a little bit more, inquiring about it, thinking about whether it was a good time to buy or not. And at the time, after many phone conversations, a couple of catch ups, just to give him that advice and try and provide that education, he reached his own conclusion that things were too hot. The market was booming. It was bound to crash at some point. So he was just going to wait and hold off until this crash he was expecting to happen. Right now, he wasn't referring to what's happening at the moment, and no one could have known what was going to happen in terms of Iran. But now that we are seeing a little bit of a slowdown in activity, I spoke to him again. And I said, look, it looks like the market's turned a little bit. This is that moment that you were talking about 8 months ago that you were waiting for. Is now the time that you're going to buy a property? And his answer was, oh, who knows what's going to happen in the future? It's a bit uncertain. People are not sure about what's coming. So it's probably not a good time to buy. I'll probably hold off again. And there you go. So we've in his eyes, when the market was booming, it wasn't the right time to buy. When the market has slowed down and turned a bit more into a buyer's market, it's not the right time to buy either. So that's where it makes a difference to have us there to try and support and do that education piece that you mentioned.
And that's someone you've known quite well. You've known him for a long time. You used to work with him back in the day, open conversations and discussions with him. He's chased the market up, as you know, for a few years, and he's going to follow it down. And if he doesn't make a purchase soon, he's going to continue to chase it up again. You mentioned before, Hugo, about the off markets coming through. One thing I've been seeing over the last week in particular, and I know our whole team has really, is an uplift in off markets coming to us. So the selling agents don't have as much competition on things, so they're more forthcoming with the off markets. They're calling us up. They're emailing through more than usual. It's interesting. I also was talking to a selling agent during the week locally here on the Sunshine Coast, and they were talking about some of the vendors that are looking to sell or were looking to sell soon, hesitating coming on the market because of the uncertainty. So what they've been doing over the last couple of weeks, it's a really good agent up here. They've been bringing qualified buyers to the vendor off market, and they've actually done a couple of deals off market, which they probably wouldn't usually have done because they would have supported the vendor to come on. But because they were hesitating, they bought the off market to the vendor, and they've done the deal before it hit the market. So we have started to see a bit of an uplift in that pre-market, off-market stuff last couple of weeks. More of them coming to us than usual.
It really is a win-win, isn't it? Even when you think about the sellers themselves. Now that we're seeing open homes or houses staying on the market for several weekends in a row, if it's your own place that you live in, that means every weekend having people come through the house, having to open it for that open home, and unfortunately not having those committed buyers. So they're just looking through and nothing comes of it. Or even if it's tenanted, same thing. You need to notify them, give them notice, organize all of that. Up until a few weeks ago, sure, you'd have an open home on a Saturday in a lot of markets. The property would be under offer by Monday. That's not happening anymore. So I think that's where we're seeing this increase because it's beneficial for everyone at the end of the day. We've got the committed buyers. The sellers don't want to go through it for weeks, and the selling agent gets the outcome that they need as well.
And let's probably important to make the point that we're not seeing things sell for far less than they should. We're not having a massive downturn. We're seeing the slight early stages of a bit of an adjustment, a bit of a shift. We don't really know where it's going to end up just yet, but we're certainly not running out there and buying everything for cheap. It'd have to stay in this state for a considerably long time before we got to that point, but it's an interesting market out there at the moment, that's for sure. What about you in Brizzy, Nick? What are you finding in that space?
Yeah, it's very similar to what we discussed last week. It's a 2-speed market down here, definitely, and perhaps even 3-speed. But when you get to the high $1 million to the $3 million mark, it's definitely a quieter market there at the moment, whether that's around serviceability, affordability for people looking to upgrade. I've seen, particularly in that high $1 million, there's some really good opportunities out there at the moment for quality properties in quality areas. There's some really good opportunities out there at the moment. Not as many buyers around as there was a few months ago. There's still some good properties out there, some good ones off market in that range. Some really interesting high-end units in Brisbane at the moment that have come to market. Quite a number of them. The ones that don't look to be well priced are standing out. There's going to be some competitive buying in that area for the next couple of months, I'd say.
Another topic that has come up this week, a really interesting one, which we talk about often in the office. It's about selling agents doing the right or the wrong things. We've talked quite a bit this week on a couple of things that have happened. One agent in particular, who won't name names, got in a bit of strife for doing the wrong thing. Just thought it was a good topic to raise this week and get both your thoughts on it. We love selling agents. There's some really, really good people out there as selling agents, really good agents, super professional. There's a probably a small amount of the agents, they're not doing the right thing. And, there's a whole bunch of stories we could sort of talk about, but it's been in the headlines this week. One agent in particular got in a bit of trouble. I just wanted to put it out to you guys to get your thoughts on it with the agents, how we need to maintain those professional relationships with them. A lot of them are really good, but a lot of them get away with some pretty unscrupulous kind of behaviour out there and unethical practices in our industry. What do you think, Nick? You're in the owner occupier market in Brisbane a fair bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic for sure. I think there's probably is a same as any industry. There's some people out there that don't do the right things. Probably a pretty small number, and they do the wrong thing. In many cases, it's someone's life savings. So it's not a great look for anyone. I can't really say off the top of my head in Brisbane I've come across any that are certainly unscrupulous to that level. There are some that when you perhaps feel like you're not getting the full story, that's okay. They're doing their job. We do ours. I think it just emphasises to me that why would you go out into a market you know nothing about and try and deal with these people with no knowledge behind you? You're just leaving yourself so open to bad decisions, bad investments. It just emphasises to me the importance of what we do. And you do develop relationships with agents. You don't necessarily want to be their best friends, but the good agents that you have good working relationships with, you can get to a good outcome where it works for both parties. And that's really what I see our job as, is making sure our clients get the best outcome. Doesn't mean that the seller's getting a bad outcome, but it's just making sure we get the best outcome. And if you're doing it on your own with what, as you said, unscrupulous agents, it's a really difficult task. It's so one-sided, and look, it's not good. My problem with it all is the penalties are too light. I mean, people get away with it, and they just go off and do something else. They've made their money and just disappear off into the sunset. Come on, Hugo, what's your take on it?
Yes, similar. Look, to be honest, the vast majority of agents that I've dealt with along the times have been fantastic. I enjoy working with them. Everyone's different. Now we're all human beings. We all have different personalities, but I haven't necessarily come across really bad, unscrupulous behavior. I think you made a really good point around getting the best possible outcome. And that's what I try and focus on. I have seen at times the personalities and the egos pop up a bit more, and that can be a hindrance, because at the end of the day, we're doing it to try and get the best possible outcome for our clients and for the sellers as well. The selling agent is doing the same for their clients. So it's not about us. It's not about the selling agent. It's about the buyer and the seller and getting the right outcomes. When you're doing it for the first time, or you've done it maybe 2 or 3 times in your life in terms of purchasing a property, you've only gone through that process 2 or 3 times and spoken to 2 or 3 agents. And those selling agents are talking to dozens of people every week and negotiating on properties every single week for years and years. So when you do the maths, you're definitely at a disadvantage when
I think to that point, Hugo, most people that do might buy 1 or 2 properties in their whole life. So they've got no idea whether that agent is conducting themselves, legal, respectable manner or not. I guess buyers agents are getting more and more popular. Maybe that could have something to do with the agents not getting away with it as much as maybe they used to. I think that the main things that I see on a regular basis, some of the agents who are maybe new to the job, they might not know what they're meant to be doing. They might not have any or enough training in different areas of the business. We often see them not following the legal guidelines around what we're supposed to be doing. So pretty small things. Some agents we see that don't negotiate with us. We put an offer in there and they sort of procrastinate and they don't sort of engage in negotiations. We've seen in the market talking to other buyers. They come to us and they talk about the different things that happen. Sometimes there could be a multiple offer situation that's not handled correctly. That happens a lot. I've seen a few instances where some selling agents have gone and sold a house to their friends for hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million less than what they could sell for in the open market, whereas they really should be looking after their vendor. So that's the other end of the spectrum. That's some pretty bad stuff. There's a lot of things that happen in our industry. We do see it all the time. A lot of it comes from inexperience. Some of the worst behaviour probably comes from those more experienced agents that care about doing the right thing and they just want to get the best outcome for their clients. Some other things that we see is maybe an auction that has a bidder on the phone and we're not too sure if that's actually a registered bidder or someone's mate bidding on the phone. That's been something that's been talked about for years and years and years. Hard to prove, and hard to catch someone out doing that. But that's the other thing that always sort of concerns me when we're looking to buy off an agent that we know is maybe not as ethical as most agents are. When there's that phone bidder in the corner bidding against us, we're not too sure whether it's a real bidder or not, all those kinds of things. So anyway, I thought it was worth mentioning this week with the things that are going on out there. Something to keep an eye on. And it really reiterates a point for me is that someone goes out there and tries to buy a property generally once or twice in their whole life. It's one of, if not the biggest financial decision in their whole life, buying a property. They head out there, they try and do it by themselves most of the time without engaging a buyer's agent. Selling agents are really, really good at what they do. Whether they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, they're out there to get the best outcome for their client, who's the seller, 99% of the time. And people just run the gauntlet. They've got no idea what they don't know. They don't realize how good these people are at what they do. And a lot of the time they end up buying something without doing the right due diligence or having the right protections in place. It's super risky. They'll end up paying more than they need to a lot of the time. We're happy to support our clients, paying what they need to buy the house, particularly if it's an owner-occupier property. And if the vendor's at a certain point and it's a little bit higher than market value, that's okay if it's the perfect property for our client. But we really want to be protecting them, making sure they get it right, they know everything about the property, and also get it for a fair price.
Yeah. You get an accountant to do your taxes and your structures. You get a conveyancer to help out with settlement. You get a mechanic to sort out your car. And then for your biggest purchase of hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, where a mistake can cost you literally tens or hundreds of thousands and set you back years, you try and go at it yourself 2 or 3 times in your life when you have people that have done it dozens, if not hundreds of times, that can help you out and have been through it. Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people consider home and they can go on realestate.com or one of the platforms, look up a property, and down below there, it'll have an auto valuation or something along those lines. And then someone forms an opinion on what the property is worth based on that. And those can be wildly inaccurate. We see it all the time. It can be wildly inaccurate on what they're looking at. And if you're using that as the basis to go out and make a purchase, you could be at a massive disadvantage before you even start.
I've had situations where the comparables that are being used are actually properties that haven't even settled yet and are nowhere on the database, right? So it's the agent saying, I just sold one across the road for 100,000 more than this one. That's what makes this one worth whatever it's worth or whatever I'm saying it's worth. And people just take that at face value. If the agent's saying they sold the one across the road, they must have sold the one across the road for that price. So this one must be worth whatever they're saying.
On that point, Hugo, we know that one situation in particular, that the one across the road actually didn't sell.
Exactly right. Didn't sell at all. Not even for any price. So, that's another example to what we were talking about earlier, right? When you spoke about comparables, you can put together comparable market analysis in different ways and pick the data that you're selecting in order to deliver the outcome that you need for your seller.
Yeah. And it goes both ways. So an auto val
Absolutely.
may not take into account much of the condition of their house. So it's might be an auto value that's overpriced because the property's in much poorer condition. But it can go the other way. The agent might be asking for 10% over that price, and you don't go off that price and just say they're asking too much because there might have been a whole heap of work just done to it. We might know of a sale that just happened off market down the road that actually did happen. So it's about coming together and knowing everything that we can know to paint the picture and support the client to make the purchase or not.
Absolutely.
All good from my end.
I just think if you're out there and you're thinking about buying and you're hesitating a bit because of world events, I think that's it's the best time we've seen in quite a while to buy property. It's time to get into it is right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. 100%. I'm super excited with where we're at the moment. We've got a bunch of good clients we're working with. We've got a bunch of settlements coming up soon, and we're going to have some really good buying opportunities. And I'm seeing it from a very positive point of view. I think if we have a correction that comes back a little bit, the selling agent space in our industry might get a little bit concerned. But I think for them and for us, if we do have a little bit of a pullback, a little bit of an adjustment, it's not necessarily a bad thing. The market was super competitive 6 weeks ago. Coming back from that and getting a little bit more normal, I think is not a bad thing for anyone. But you're right. Let's have the confidence to get out there, give our clients the confidence as well to make those purchases because it's a great time to buy. All right. Well, thanks for listening. And don't forget to follow the podcast Around the Grounds on Spotify. And we'll see you next week.